Tom Hammond and O.J. Simpson from Tad Gormley Stadium in New Orleans, where the women's 200-meter finals are set. Here are the 8 runners that will compete in that final event tomorrow, with the top 3 to make the trip to Barcelona. And coming up, the men's 200-meter semifinals. Again, the top 4 will advance. See the world and American record holders, Carl Lewis and Joe DeLoach, the co-holders of the American record in this event. And right now, Dave Johnson up for his second throw of the javelin decathlon competition. Dwight Stones will take us through that.
All right, Tom, after an 8-foot personal best on his first throw, Dave Johnson up on the javelin runway, the 9th event of 10 in the decathlon, over 244 feet on his first throw, which is a little unusual. The wind gusting, but he certainly caught one. Now with the new javelin, the tailwind is actually a better wind than with the old implement, where the athletes like to have a headwind. You never know which way the wind blows here at Tad Gormley Stadium. Dave Johnson having a great second day. If he doesn't improve on that particular mark of 244 feet 8 inches, he would have to run a 4:15, 1,500 meters to improve on his own personal best. Unlikely in these particular conditions. Second throw for Johnson. And this one's way short of his first one. Not even out over the 220-foot line. So let's go back to Tom Hammond and O.J. for that 200-meter semifinal.
All right, Dwight, in this first semifinal features Dennis Mitchell, who shocked the track world by winning the 100-meter dash. Also here will be Leroy Burrell, former world's fastest man, set the world record, winning the U.S. Championship a year ago at Randall's Island in New York. Second to Carl Lewis at the World Championships, and then just recently third in the 100-meter dash here at the Trials.
What's interesting to me is the fact that we're looking at a couple of sprinters there. Burrell, who seems to be just trying to hold on, even the 100-meter. He didn't look as impressive as he did earlier this year and all of last year. Dennis Mitchell, a sprinter that's been on the rise. I mean, last year in the World Championship, he impressed us all by getting third in the 100-meter, and he's always felt that he was a better 200-meter runner.
Well, he'll get his chance here. Dennis Mitchell was second to Burrell in the quarterfinals.
But he's an experienced runner. I don't think these guys are burning it in the quarterfinals. They realize this is 3 races in just about 24 hours. So what they're trying to do is cruise these earlier races, run just as hard as they have to advance.
Here is that mark that Dave Johnson recorded on his second javelin throw, 2:12.9, well short of his first effort, which was a personal best. Let's check the full-page lanes now for the men's 200-meter dash. This is the first semifinal, with the top 4 advancing to tomorrow's final event. Keep your eye on Mitchell in 4, Burrell in 5. Tim Williams in lane 6 was a late arrival, apparently, and just now getting his sweats off, as you see, and getting ready to enter the blocks. That's kind of holding the race up for a moment. Now Williams getting set. Takes a practice run away and will come back as the field readies for the 200. Running the curve is always important in any 200 race, O.J. How do Mitchell and Burrell rate in that department?
Well, obviously, I think Mitchell is an excellent curve runner. Burrell is a strong runner. He tends to run all over his lane, so he's not a great curve runner. We'll see a person in the second race, Mr. Michael Johnson, who may be the best curve runner in the world, and that should be interesting because he has Carl Lewis in that race. And Carl had some pretty interesting observations to make about Mr. Johnson to me earlier in this week about his chances of even making the U.S. team in this 200-meter, even though he's the #1 ranked sprinter in this distance in the world.
Burrell was the last man to beat Johnson until earlier this summer. That was way back in 1990. And as they come to the top of the home stretch, Leroy Burrell is running well, and so is Dennis Mitchell. Mitchell has a short lead. Burrell is there. Watkins, and here comes Bates in lane 3. It's going to be a tight finish. Bates, Mitchell, Burrell. Burrell gets the short win with Mitchell second and Bates right there. Perhaps Bates got second and Mitchell third. They were right together. And it was Leroy Burrell coming out of the curve that took the lead in the straightaway.
Well, once they hit the straightaway, you can see Mitchell has a slight lead. Burrell's a very strong runner. Once again, these guys are running just as fast as they have to. They have a big race tomorrow, which is the finals, and this 200 meters takes an awful lot out of you. And as we stated earlier, it is more important to relax in this race than the 100 meter, because once you come off the turn, it's rare that you can find a sprinter that can accelerate at this point. I think years ago, Tommy Smith was about the only sprinter I ever saw who can accelerate in that last 80 yards. As you can see here, Burrell is just trying to maintain his stride, and he does a very good job of it. Mitchell, of these three sprinters, appeared to be the one with the most left. I think tomorrow you'll see him trying to accelerate, even though it'll be pretty difficult, but running a lot harder than he was currently running.
Looked like Burrell, Bates, and Mitchell, the top three. In the fourth qualifier, J.Williams. He was in lane 8, and he will advance to the finals tomorrow in the 200. Leroy Burrell leaves the qualifiers out of the first semifinal. He's with Todd.
Next up, on the runway of the Devlon, James Johnson.
We're here with Leroy Burrell. You know, Leroy, in the past, people have talked about you've had great 100-meter runs, then you've come back in the 200 not done so well. Third place in the 100 meters, you're looking awfully strong at this point.
Well, you know, I've been training for the 200 all year. I'm really confident that I can not only make the team, but win. I came out and ran my easily, and it's a lot easier when you don't have the pressure of making the team on you, and I'm just out here just having a good time, really.
One of the things that looked impressive to us is as you came off the curve, O.J. pointed out that you really turned it on down the stretch. They figure you as a shorter runner, more of a curve runner, but you're showing a lot of speed.
Well, I built up my endurance, and I'm a much better sprinter this year than I was last year.
All right, good luck to you in the finals.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
All right, Todd. Leroy Burrell wins his semifinal. Will his Santa Monica Track Club teammate Carl Lewis do the same? Carl Lewis takes on Michael Johnson when we come back. Dave Johnson now all alone. No more Dan and Dave. Dave Johnson with a thumbs up for his performance so far in the decathlon. After 9 events with only the 1,500-meter run left, Dave Johnson leading with 7,886 points. And if you're just joining us, the big news, Dan O'Brien eliminated from contention after posting no score in the pole vault earlier today. Let's turn our attention now to the second semifinal in the men's 200-meter run. A star-studded contingent here. The 8 runners bring some impressive credentials to the field, led by Michael Johnson, ranked number 1 in this event. He won 31 consecutive meets straight before he tasted defeat at the hand of Frank Fredericks earlier this summer in Europe.
And this is a guy who is, the other athletes refer to him as the man. You recall in Tokyo last year, they sort of looked at him in the same sense of awe as they do Carl Lewis. Very impressed with him. Carl Lewis is not overly impressed with him. Carl Lewis told me earlier this week that Johnson's never really been challenged in the 200 meters. He says he's always leading, coming off the turn, and if anybody's with him, he may not run as relaxed as he normally would. He felt that with him in the race, with people like Dennis Mitchell and Leroy Burrell, that Johnson would not be leading, coming into the straightaway, might tighten up. Either he was going to blow them away or he would not. Repeat, that Michael Johnson would not make the Olympic team. Those are the words of Carl Lewis.
Also in this second semifinal, Mike Marsh, hot all spring, much improved, finished 4th in the 100. And here are the lane assignments for the second semifinal in the 200.
Well, Mike Marsh, he's sort of gotten lost in the wash here. You're talking about Johnson and Lewis. Mike Marsh has the best time in the world this year in this event. You know, it's interesting that Carl feels that Johnson would not be leading after 120 or 30 yards. Obviously, Johnson, Mitchell, Burrell, you have to assume are faster at that distance. But we're talking about a curve here, and I think Michael Johnson runs the best curve of any of these guys. That's why I think he will probably be in the lead, even though he could be challenged. Here in this race, maybe not as much as he will be tomorrow, because Carl Lewis, an experienced runner, a little older, now at 30 years of age, has to pick his shots, and I think Carl will save a little bit today for tomorrow.
Michael Johnson on the left, Carl Lewis on the right. And it looked like James Jett in lane 2 might have come away early. Jett is the wide receiver from West Virginia University who finished 5th in the 100 meter, who surprised everyone with his ability there.
Including Carl Lewis, finished in front of maybe the, obviously the world record holder, and he's a football player.
You said that with some degree of pride.
Yes, yes.
Michael Johnson, he talked about his ability in running the curve. He sent a gasp through the crowd earlier today in the quarterfinals as he just scooted there. He has a unique running style, right? You'll see him right away, and Carl Lewis has to be thinking about that statement he made to you about whether Michael Johnson will be leading or not, and if he is not, may not make the team.
Well, as they said, you come down that straightaway, you have to be able to relax and maintain your stride, and I think Carl was just saying that Michael is not challenged enough in that straightaway, and he might tighten up and not be able to maintain it through the finish.
And Michael Johnson in lane 6 will lead the field to the top of the stretch. Michael Johnson is there. Carl Lewis and Mike Marsh, and Jett is fourth. Johnson on the outside. Now Marsh comes along to challenge. Marsh has a short lead. Johnson is still there with Lewis as they cross the finish line. It was Marsh and Johnson right together. Carl Lewis eased up in the final stride to take third.
Well, that's pretty interesting. What I found interesting about that for Michael Johnson is even though he may be saving something for tomorrow, he was definitely qualified for tomorrow, at least in the last few strides, and he actually leaned at the tape. So what I think is that he's being a little competitive here, and he may have been running a little harder than he really needed to run in this race. As we can see, as I said, he runs an excellent turn. You see him at the left of your screen there. Johnson leading the race. Carl Lewis, being typically Carl right there. Carl, you would imagine Carl would be the stronger sprinter against most of the other sprinters he is, but when you have to take into consideration that Michael Johnson is ranked #1 in the world in the 400 meters, you would think that down this straightaway is where he would assert his superiority, his strength anyway, his endurance. But Mike Marsh, #1 ranked, are timed in the world this year through the finish line.
Followed by Johnson and Lewis. As we look unofficially at the results in the second semifinal, Marsh, Johnson, and Lewis, with James Trapp from Clemson being the 4th qualifier to tomorrow's final event. Let's go to Todd Christensen.
We're here with Michael Johnson. Michael, one of the things that I think maybe people aren't concerned with here where you are is that the event has been going on now some 10 days, and now you come in at the end. Does this affect you any way competitively?
No, I think that it helped me to stay at home, focus on what I was doing instead of all the external things that were going on off the track. Just being at home, not being a part of that, I think that benefited me well.
I think one of the things everybody's interested in is the obvious rivalry between yourself and now the Santa Monica Track Club in effect. But now you've beaten Carl Lewis twice in heats. Is that a very real rivalry, something you're thinking about?
It's nothing that I'm thinking about. I'm out here to make the Olympic team. We get to the Olympics. If I make it, Carl makes it, I'm still going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be out there, become an Olympic gold medalist. Anybody that's trying to stop me, they're in the danger zone. I'm going to get them.
Any thoughts now in retrospect over the fact that you can't double? Any regrets?
I put that all behind me. I'm just focusing now on doing the best that I can in the 200 meters.
Congratulations to you.
Thanks.
Tom?
All right, Todd. Michael Johnson, the former Baylor All-American, throwing down the gauntlet, talking about the danger zone if you try to keep him from winning tomorrow's 200-meter final. Here's the field Michael Johnson will face. It includes Lewis, Mitchell, Burrell, and Marsh. Well, the final event of the decathlon, the 1500, is coming up. We'll cover that when we come back.